Hello friends, it's Alexis, and welcome to my November Battle of the Books. Jumping right into my November stats, I read a total of 15 books last month, technically 16, but we'll talk about that when we get to the battle, you'll understand. That breaks down into 1,835 physical pages read with my eyeballs, and I listened to 108 hours and 38 minutes of audiobooks. It was a big audiobook heavy month for me. I read a total of 5 physical books and 10 audio, like I mentioned, 0 ebooks. 8 of the books I read were off of my owned TBR. I DNF'd 0 books and I bought 3. Still not great, but better than last month. If you're interested in all at seeing more of my monthly stats, I do always post them on Instagram, usually on the last day of the month or the first day of the following month. So I will have my Instagram linked below. I would love to have you over there. But without further ado, I think we can get into the fight. I am very interested to see who our winner will be. I had a lot of very high highs, but also low lows this month. So it's going to be an interesting matchup to determine our winner. Alright, so starting out with our first matchup, on the left we have My Boyfriends Are All Monsters by Kimberly Lemming, and this is a part of the Amazon Scared Sexy short story collection that were all sort of like monster romances. I started this collection in October, but I didn't get around to finishing them all, so in November I ended up reading the final 3, so we'll talk about all of them during this video. But yeah, first up we have My First Ever Story by Kimberly Lemming, and I've decided I really like her writing. I really enjoyed this story. Actually one of my favorites of the entire collection. It had a lot of comedy while also still being romantic and sexy, and that's really all I wanted from this collection. Reading about monster romances, you have to be able to laugh at them a little bit, and this one did such a good job. I just really liked Kimberly Lemming's writing style, and I have a feeling from what I know of her series that she uses a lot of comedy in her voice while she's writing, so definitely interested in picking up more from her. And I ended up giving this one 5 stars. That is going up against a very popular romance this year, If It Makes You Happy by Julie Olivia. This is also my first from this author. I think this might be a debut book, which makes sense as to why it would be my first, but I enjoyed it less than I think other people did and less than I was hoping to going in. I ended up rating this one 3 stars, which to me is still a good book. It's just not a new favorite romance of all time. It didn't really give me the feelings that I want to feel in a romance. You know, I wasn't really rooting for this couple. It was fine. I was happy with the ending, but there were definitely parts of this story that really annoyed me. First of all being, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but the dog character. So if you've read this one, then you know that there is a dog named Rocket. He's actually on the cover. He is the female main character's dog. The female main character talked to him a lot. Fine, I talked to my dogs, but she had to keep like writing up her little responses of what she thought the dog was saying back, and the dog was like super rude and did not like her at all. So it was just really annoying me. Like, I know the author was trying to do it to be funny, to have like this cute banter between the sassy dog and the female main character, but I did not enjoy it. And the entire epilogue was told from the dog's point of view. I was so confused. I had no idea what it was talking about. I had no idea what happened in that epilogue because the dog wasn't using the people's names. He was using like owner girl and guy that smells good, like things that the dog would use to identify a human. So like, good job with that. But for an epilogue, oh my god, I couldn't stand it. I have no idea what happened in that epilogue. I know it might sound like I really hated this book, but that's not the case. That's just the main thing that brought my enjoyment down. I did like the story. I liked the romance. I really liked the small town setting. A lot of people say if you're a fan of Gilmore Girls to read this book. I have to admit that I've never seen Gilmore Girls, but the small town sort of community, the fall festivals they were having, it all seems like something that would be happening in the Gilmore Girls universe. So I know I say this every single episode that the star rating does not determine a winner, but in this case, I am going to go with My Boyfriends Are All Monsters as my winner for this round. Like, just thinking about if I had to read more in this world, like which romance I preferred. The love interest in My Boyfriends Are All Monsters was so interesting and definitely something I would like to see more of. Like, Kimberly Lemming could write a whole series based on this couple, and I don't think we would get bored just the way it was set up, what this monster is able to do. So yeah, we have our first book. Moving on to round 2. Okay, moving on to matchup number 2. I did vlog both of these books, so if you saw those, you might already know the winner, but let's start out on the left. Jurassic Park by Michael Crichton. Possibly a contender for my favorite book of the year. I really liked this book. It helps that I'm a fan of the movie. I think this is one of the rare cases where it has a really solid book to movie adaptation. So if you are a fan of one, I would really recommend trying out the other one. If you've seen the movie, if it was a part of your childhood, you grew up watching it and really enjoyed it, you have to check out the book. This is definitely one where reading the book added so much value. There was so much extra stuff in the book that wasn't in the movies, and this is exactly what I want in like an action-y thriller horror book. This was so much fun. It had me on the edge of my seat, even though I know how the movie ends. The book was incredible at building suspense and keeping me engrossed in the story. So no surprise that I gave Jurassic Park 5 stars, and that is going up against an Indigenous dark fiction anthology, Never Whistle at Night, edited by Shane Hawk and Theodore C. Van Elst Jr. When I read anthologies, I end up rating each individual story, and then at the end of it all, I take the average. So I think there was something like 26 stories in this. So after taking the average of all my ratings, I ended up on a 3.5 star rating, which does feel correct. There were definitely some stories in this that I absolutely loved. I will actively be seeking out more from these authors, and they have not been able to leave my head since I read this book. Other stories, I sort of hope I never have to read anything from these authors again. If you're interested in hearing my more in-depth thoughts and seeing all of my ratings for these stories, I will have the vlog linked below, and that goes for all of these books. Any book that I vlogged about in the month of October, in the month of November, I will have the vlog in my description so you can check it out if you missed it. But yeah, I won't go into too much detail about this one because it was an anthology of all different authors, all different horror stories. I think my only thing I will say, my main critique, is with a title like Never Whistle at Night, I really thought this was going to be a collection of Indigenous folklore tales, you know, about cryptids, things in the woods, you know, legends and reasons you don't whistle at night. And that's not really what I got. There was maybe 1 or 2 stories that fit that theme, but overall, it was really just a collection of Indigenous horror stories, which is fine. But to me, going in expecting one thing, I think that definitely led to my disappointment with the overall book. So no surprise, Jurassic Park will be our winner for this round, and moving on to the next one. Okay, we have our first difficult matchup, and actually a very Tiffany-coded matchup. So if you don't know, I talk about Tiffany a lot. She is one of my internet friends that I met because of BookTube, because we are both in the same creator's Patreon, and I got to know her, and I love her taste in books, and I get a lot of my recommendations from her. I will have their Bookstagram linked below. You should definitely go follow and give their posts some love. But these are Tiffany-coded books because 1, we share a love of Stephen Graham Jones, and Tiffany actually gifted me this book for my birthday this year. 2, These Women was a direct recommendation from Tiffany for my 12 Recs from 12 Friends. First up, on the left, Buffalo Hunter Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. I wanted to like this one more than I did. Don't get me wrong, I did enjoy this book. There are definitely just things that I didn't love about it, things that I wish were done differently. But also, it's Stephen Graham Jones, so like that's blasphemy to say. Like, who am I to critique Stephen Graham Jones's writing? Like, he can do whatever he wants to do. But I think the main takeaway for me with this story is I kept thinking while reading it how much I want to see this made into a movie, how it was almost written very much like a movie script. It was very descriptive of the setting. Like, maybe it's just me that when I read, I can see things in my head like a movie, but I was just imagining how much I would enjoy this. on a screen rather than reading it in a book. And that's really because the middle part of the story got to be a little boring for me. Again, I feel so wrong critiquing it because everything in this story had a purpose and a reason. But for me, I started to lose a little bit of interest, and I just know if it was like on a movie screen and I was seeing the things that were being described happening, I would have enjoyed it more. I would have understood what was happening more. But on the other hand, the things that I liked about this book, I absolutely loved. Like, I'm talking 5 stars level of love. It was just the little things that I had a problem with that brought the rating down. Like, the depictions of the vampires in this is one of my favorites that I've read in a very long time. It was just very unique. There were a lot of aspects that we hadn't seen before, or at least I haven't in other stories. And I am sort of a self-proclaimed vampire expert. I think I've mentioned this before, but I did literally take an English course on vampires in literature in college. So there's that. All jokes aside, I really, really loved some parts of this book and really didn't love other parts. So that's why I've decided to land on a 3-star rating. Right in the middle, still a good book, but not a favorite, unfortunately, because I really wanted to love this one. Going over to These Women by Tiffany-coded. This is sort of the complete opposite of Buffalo Hunter Hunter. I went into this book with no expectations. I had never heard of it before. I had never heard anybody talk about it, but it was a recommendation from Tiffany, so I knew it was going to be special, and I was not wrong. I ended up absolutely loving this story. This is definitely my favorite thriller I have read this year. I know I haven't read a ton, but that doesn't diminish like how impactful this story was, and the twist at the end. I did not see it coming, and it was really, really well done. This is another one I had a dedicated vlog for. I want to hear more of my thoughts, but I landed on a 4.5-star rating for this one. This is where it's hard. I know if we're going based on the ratings, These Women, but like the Buffalo Hunter Hunter, it was so good. Well, parts of it were so good. Yeah, I think I have to go with These Women. Okay, and down to our final matchup on this side, we have another Stephen Graham Jones, Killer on the Road. So this is where I was talking about that I technically read 15 books, but like actually it was 16 because in November I read the bind up of 2 of Stephen Graham Jones's short stories, The Killer on the Road and then The Babysitter Lives, which we'll talk about that one later. So for this one, remember when I was telling you about low lows? I really, really didn't like this one. I decided to give this a 2.5-star rating, and I think that's only so high because I really, really like this author and I really wanted to like this story. Plus the bind up is so cool. If you haven't seen it, it's 2 stories in one, except it's not like your traditional anthology where you just read all the way to the end. This one has 1 story on one side and then you have to flip it over and like read it backwards for the other one. It's so cool, and I wanted this to be like my new favorite book of all time. That did not happen. This one, I don't know what was wrong with it. It was confusing to me. It was definitely boring at a lot of points. I guess I just didn't really get it. And that's the problem I have with this author. As much as I'm obsessed with him and I love his writing, the story has to click for me. If it doesn't click, I don't enjoy it. So that was my experience with this one, unfortunately. And now that I'm looking back at it, I really don't remember a lot of it. Like, I think I kind of finished it and then blocked it out of my head and moved on to the next thing. So going up against that one, we have one of the highs of the month. That is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Now, if you've seen my wrap-ups before, I don't usually talk about nonfiction books in my wrap-ups because, you know, it feels a little weird to rate nonfiction, specifically when it's somebody's life story, like in a memoir. This didn't have too many memoir-y bits to it. There were a few, but overall it was just talking about indigenous wisdom, scientific knowledge, and the teachings of plants, like the cover says. And honestly, this was such an incredible book and exactly what I needed right now at this time in my life that I have to share it with you all in the hopes that at least one person picks up this book. Because this book really talks about how we should all be looking at the natural world, how we should be appreciating it and thanking it and taking care center of it. All things that I've always found very, very important and how I've always tried to look at the earth, but this just added so much to that. So much more grateful and appreciative of the world around me, and is really going to inspire me to do better. So it should be no surprise that braiding sweetgrass is our winner for this round. All right, now we have to get down to business. We have to start cutting favorites. Jurassic Park has to be our winner. This is not a book or a reading experience I will forget anytime soon. All right, and then these women versus braiding sweetgrass. It feels so wrong to be knocking these women out, but I mean, come on, it's braiding sweetgrass. Ugh, and now the hard part. And looking at the other side of the board, this hurts even worse because in a perfect world, this would be my number 1 and number 2 book. But because of the way this is gonna work out, one of these books is going to be third. I mean, I have to go with Jurassic Park. I'm truly not exaggerating when I say this was such a delight to read. It was such a surprise. I went into this one thinking this was going to be the most boring, science-heavy book, and it was the complete opposite. I had so much fun, and I absolutely flew through it. Like, it just has to be Jurassic Park. Now that that's over, I think this side will be much easier. So starting out on the left, we have Turning of the Bones and Other Stories by Mike X. Welch. I also vlog this one, so if you want a more in-depth review, you know where to find it. I'm not going to go too into detail here, and I'm not even going to tell you my star rating because it's not good. And the reason for that is this is a local, independently self-published author, so I don't want to be on the internet tearing apart their writing. Writing a book is incredibly hard. I mean, I couldn't do it, so who am I talking about if I thought a book was bad or not? I really believe that everybody should have their own opinions on books. I think reading is a very subjective thing. There are books that I've absolutely loved that I know other people hate, and vice versa. I find some of my favorite books based on other creators that have opposite taste in me saying they didn't like it. So this book, even though it didn't work for me, it might be somebody's new favorite of all time. This one was a short story collection of horror stories. And I'm gonna leave it at that and move on to Post-Traumatic by Chantel V. Johnson. Unfortunately, it's a very similar review to the last book. I was not a fan of this one. I go very in-depth in my vlog in this one why I didn't like it. There were many, many reasons. There were actually very few things that I liked in this one, and I settled on a 2.5 star rating. So this is a really funny matchup because in any other circumstance, neither of these books would be moving on, but because they're up against each other, Post-Traumatic will be moving to round 2. All right, now getting into some books I actually enjoyed. So first up we have 11/22/63 by Stephen King. I finally conquered the beast that is this 900 page book, and I did it in 24 hours. Humble self-brag. And I actually really like this one. It would be pretty disappointing if I spent all that time reading this just to be like, I hated it, but that was not the case. I've enjoyed Stephen King in the past. He's not my favorite horror author, but I appreciate his stories. This one was actually very different. It was not a horror book, even though there were quite horrific scenes in it. This one was actually a historical fiction romance with a tiny bit of sci-fi in it. This one is all about time travel and trying to change things in the past. And I thought it was a really good story. I really came to feel things for these characters, and I was definitely tearing up at a few points of the book. I settled on a 4-star rating. It wasn't the perfect book in my opinion, but it's definitely a good one and definitely worth your time. And that is going up against another book I gave 4 stars, Beta Vulgaris by Margie Sarsfield. If you've watched my channel before, are you so happy that I finally read this? I have talked about this book so much. It's been on a few TBRs now and I've never gotten to it, but November was the month I was determined it was getting read, and I did it. I'm really happy I ended up reading this one. It was a bit different than I thought it would be. I was expecting more horror. This one definitely fits into that weird girl literature category. It's really the story of a woman's descent into madness. So if you're a fan of those kinds of books, I think this will work well for you. I think for me, I was just missing that horror-y element. I wanted a little bit more. I wanted it to be a little darker and grittier, but I really did enjoy the ending. This is definitely not a book that gives you all of the answers, and I like that. I like having to imagine and really think about what I think happened. So we have a true head-to-head 4-star versus 4-star, and I think I'm gonna go with 11/22/63. Did I scare anyone? I know that is a favorite of a lot of people. People take their Stephen King very seriously, so I did not mean to offend with my little joke. Moving on, we have that second half of the Stephen Graham Jones Bind Up. I read a lot of books by the Stephens this month. I did like this one more than Killer on the Road, but not by much. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I feel like this story was better developed than Killer on the Road. It was also longer, which I didn't love. There were a lot of points during this story where I was like, okay, we've got to be done, right? Like everything's been revealed that has to be revealed, and then something else would happen, and it was never done yet. This felt like it went on forever, and like, it's a novella. It shouldn't have felt that way. I did like that our main character was a lesbian in this one. If I had to pick a positive, that's that. So, moving on to the other one, The Accident Season by Moira Fowley Doyle. This is one that had potential. I really liked the premise, but not so much the execution. I think if a different author had written this and made it adult instead of YA, I could have been more into it. My main problem with this one was the characters and how young they read. I felt like they made a lot of stupid decisions in this book, and it kind of took me out of the story because I was just annoyed. I was like yelling at the characters about their bad decisions, and it really made the story unenjoyable for me. So by the time the ending, the twist was revealed, I was like, are you kidding? That is so dumb. And I decided to go with a 2-star rating for this one. So again, if these two had been matched up against any other books, they would not be moving on, but we have to have a winner, so I'm gonna go with The Babysitter Lives. And finally, wrapping this side up with 2 more of the Amazon Scared Sexy original short stories. We have Space Vampire by Ruby Dixon, and I gave this one 3 stars. If you've read Ruby Dixon before, all of her stories are very similar. She writes good smut, she likes aliens, they're a fun time, but maybe not the most memorable or impactful books you'll ever read. I did like the couple in this one. I just feel like we didn't really get a chance to get to know them before the sexy time started. And I feel like that took up a lot of the story so that we didn't really have a plot. The plot was kind of forgotten about and it was just smut, which is fun if that's what you want. But I wanted a little bit more story. And that is going up against Spicy Little Curses by J.T. Gessinger. This is my first story by this author, and I'm surprised that I actually rated this one 3.5 stars, so higher than Space Vampire. But looking back, I don't really remember this one. I don't really remember liking this one, I should say. I do remember it had to do with a tattoo artist, which I thought was cool, but I really didn't like the way the couple interacted. I remember finding the one-liners kind of cringy. I didn't really like their chemistry. So looking back on it now, I actually think I'm going to change my rating to 2 stars because, like, I don't think this book warranted 3.5 stars. Because, like, if there was anything good about it, I can't remember right now. So, yeah, I'm going to call Space Vampire our winner for this round. All right, moving on to round 2. This is an easy choice. Obviously, 11/22/63 will be moving on. I mean, it's a true head-to-head, both 3 stars. The Babysitter Lives was already too long, whereas I could have enjoyed more of Space Vampire, so I'm going to go with Space Vampire. Clear winner here, no surprise, going to Stephen King. And now, what we've all been waiting for, my best book of November. I immediately know what it's going to be. It feels correct. This is definitely the book that blew me away, surprised me the absolute most, and has a chance at being on my top books of the year. I really, really liked it. I won't shut up about it, but Jurassic Park was incredible, and it makes sense that this would be my best book of November. But that is going to be it for today, my friends. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my pain in trying to pick my favorite book of the month. It wasn't too bad this month. I feel like there was a pretty clear and obvious winner. Some months, some months it gets a little rough. If you made it to the end of this video, please let me know what your favorite book from November was. Or if you would just like to leave me an emoji to let me know you were here, our emoji of the video has to be... No, I did the dinosaur already. There's no fern emoji? I swear I have seen a fern emoji before. Yeah, this guy. Whatever this guy is, the plant emoji. Just leave me a plant emoji to represent the ferns in Jurassic Park. But as always, friends, I hope you read a good book today, and I will see you soon in my next one. Bye.